They say blood is thicker than water. My mother certainly thought so when she claimed a slip of the finger drained 18 years of savings from my daughter's college fund. Every cent vanished overnight, supposedly by accident, just to fund a flashy kitchen remodel for my narcissistic younger sister. But in our family, there are no accidents. They thought they could steal her future for a hollow showpiece. They forgot I built the trap they just walked into. Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Maya Revenge Stories. We want to thank you from the bottom of our hearts for your endless support, but unfortunately, YouTube has demonetized our channel, leaving us without the budget to keep operating here. Because of this, we are forced to stop uploading new videos on this platform for the foreseeable future and will be moving our operations over to Patreon. If you enjoy today's story, please consider supporting us by joining our Patreon, where you will get access to even better, exclusive true stories that are much longer, feature highly detailed situations we cannot make public on YouTube, and are brought to life by multiple emotional voice actors. You can join us right now by scanning the QR code on your screen or by clicking the Patreon link down in the description or the pinned comment. Now, let us dive into today's story, told from the perspective of our protagonist, Nevaeh Hunter. The morning sun was pouring through the bay windows of our modest townhouse when my entire world stopped spinning. I had taken a hard-earned personal day from my mid-level management position at AeroVantage Solutions. Today was supposed to be a celebration. My beautiful 18-year-old daughter, Chloe, was sitting right beside me at the dining table, her eyes practically sparkling with anticipation. We had our laptops open, coffee brewing, and her acceptance letter to one of the most prestigious design academies in New York sitting proudly on a display stand. All we had to do was log into the Joint Educational Trust portal, wire the tuition for her very first semester, and secure her housing deposit. It was the culmination of 18 years of relentless saving, skipped vacations, and late-night overtime shifts. I typed in the password, took a deep breath, and hit enter. The screen loaded. I blinked, rubbing my eyes, assuming the system was glitching. The available balance read exactly $0.00. "Mom, what is going on?" Chloe asked, her voice trembling as the sparkling excitement in her eyes instantly morphed into raw panic. "Where is the money? The deadline is next week." A cold sweat broke out across the back of my neck. I refreshed the page 1 time, 2 times, 3 times, $0. I checked the transaction history. Just 2 days prior, an outbound wire transfer had completely drained the account. The destination was a local luxury construction firm. There was only one other person who had administrative access to that legacy trust account, from when it was first set up years ago. My mother, Beatrice. I did not waste time calling customer service. I grabbed my car keys, practically shoved my feet into my shoes, and told Chloe to get in the passenger seat. We drove the 30 miles to my mother's sprawling estate in the affluent suburbs of Seattle. My heart was pounding against my ribs like a trapped bird, but a dark, sickening realization was already settling in my gut. When I pushed open the heavy oak front doors, I was not met with a financial emergency or a stolen identity crisis. Instead, I was hit by the blinding glare of ring lights and the shrill, obnoxious laughter of my younger sister, Savannah. The scene unfolding in the grand foyer was nothing short of grotesque. Beatrice and Savannah were deeply engrossed in a live broadcast for Savannah's lifestyle social media channel. They were surrounded by massive cardboard boxes, peeling away protective film from a fleet of imported, matte black, commercial-grade kitchen appliances. Savannah was holding up a piece of shiny hardware to her smartphone camera, pouting her lips perfectly. "And this is the custom brass faucet. Guys, it cost more than my first car, but aesthetic is everything, right?" Savannah squealed to her digital audience. I stepped into the frame, my presence sucking the air right out of the room. Savannah lowered the phone, her fake smile faltering for just a fraction of a second before she hit a button to mute the stream. Beatrice turned around, adjusting her designer cardigan, looking entirely unbothered by the sheer terror radiating from her eldest daughter and her teenage granddaughter. "Nevaeh, darling, What a surprise, Beatrice cooed, her tone dripping with a rehearsed, sickening sweetness. You are interrupting Savannah's unboxing event. We have over 10,000 viewers right now. Where is the money? Mom, I asked, my voice terrifyingly steady despite the hurricane tearing through my chest. Chloe's college fund. It is completely empty. Beatrice gasped, bringing a manicured hand to her chest in a theatrical display of shock. Oh, goodness, is the transfer already complete? Navaya, please do not overreact. I meant to call you. It was a complete accident, a silly glitch with the banking app. A glitch, I repeated, feeling the blood drain from my face. Yes, Beatrice insisted, widening her eyes to feign innocence. Savannah was in a total bind. The contractor for her kitchen remodel demanded a massive deposit up front to secure the imported marble countertops. I was just trying to act as her financial guarantor and transfer some funds from my own savings to cover the initial invoice. I must have accidentally clicked the wrong account on the drop-down menu in my rush. It was a pathetic, insulting lie. Bank transfers of that magnitude required two-factor authentication, security questions, and multiple confirmation screens. You do not just accidentally click away an entire college fund. Savannah crossed her arms, rolling her eyes as if we were the ones being unreasonable. Honestly, Neve, calm down. It is really not a big deal. The kitchen is an investment for my brand. I will just pay Chloe back in gradual installments using my social media revenue once the sponsorships roll in. Chloe let out a choked sob, tears spilling hot and fast down her cheeks. My tuition is due in 7 days. Aunt Savannah, I cannot pay for New York with gradual installments. Savannah sighed dramatically, waving a hand in the air. Then just defer for a year, or go to that cheap community college down the street for your general education credits. It is basically the same thing. Chloe, do not be so dramatic. My mother nodded in agreement, lightly patting Savannah's shoulder. Your sister is right. Nevaeh, family helps family. Savannah needed this for her career. Chloe has plenty of time to figure things out. They stood there, wrapped in their vanity and suffocating entitlement, expecting me to explode. They expected me to scream, to break things, to throw a hysterical fit that Savannah could probably secretly record and spin into a victim narrative for her followers. That was their game. But I did not give them the satisfaction. I looked at the imported appliances, then at my mother's smug face, and finally at my sister's arrogant smirk. The cruelty was not a mistake. It was a meticulously calculated decision to sacrifice my daughter's future on the altar of Savannah's ego. I reached out and grabbed Chloe's trembling hand, squeezing it firmly. I did not raise my voice. I did not shed a single tear. I just turned around and walked my daughter out the door into the cold, silent afternoon. They thought they had won, but they had absolutely no idea that their nightmare was just beginning. I did not go home. I dropped Chloe off at our townhouse with a cup of chamomile tea and a promise that I would fix this. Then, I drove straight into the heart of downtown Seattle. The rain was drumming a relentless, aggressive rhythm against my windshield, matching the cold. Mechanical processing taking over my brain. You do not just misplace a six-figure sum. A bank does not slip on a digital banana peel. Modern banking architecture is built on firewalls, biometric verifications, and redundant security protocols, not feelings. I needed someone who understood the dark architecture of financial deceit. I needed Marcus Thorne. Marcus was a corporate attorney and a forensic financial investigator who operated out of a sleek, glass-walled office overlooking Puget Sound. He was a predator in a perfectly tailored charcoal suit. He was the exact kind of man you hire when you want to gut a fraudulent corporation without spilling a single drop of blood on the lobby carpet. I sat across his heavy mahogany desk, sliding my tablet toward him. I explained the situation in under 5 minutes. Marcus did not offer empty sympathy or warm platitudes. He offered absolute, surgical precision. "Give me 24 hours, Marcus said, his eyes already scanning the digital banking logs I had managed to pull from my phone. He did not even need 24. He called me back to his office the very next morning at exactly 8 o'clock. The sharp smell of black espresso and ozone filled his minimalist workspace. He had a thick manila folder resting squarely in the center of his desk. It looked heavy. It looked toxic. "Your mother is either a criminal mastermind or a complete, arrogant fool," Marcus began, leaning back in his leather executive chair. "And I am leaning heavily toward the latter. There was no accidental wire transfer. Navaya. That is a fairy tale crafted for the financially illiterate." "Show me," I demanded, my voice devoid of any warmth, sharp as broken glass. Marcus opened the folder. He laid out a series of transaction receipts and heavily redacted lending agreements. The educational trust was locked under a rigid dual-signature security protocol. Nobody could move a single dime out of that account with just a click. But your mother did not transfer the money outright. She leveraged it. He pointed to a specific paragraph on a densely typed page. "Beatrice dug up an obsolete document granting her temporary financial guardianship over you from when you were severely ill almost 2 decades ago. She used that expired authority, along with a forged digital signature bearing your exact name, to authorize the educational trust as collateral for a high-yield, short-term predatory loan." A cold, paralyzing fury washed over my entire body. She had not just stolen the cash. She had actively mortgaged my daughter's future to a shadow lender. She had committed a calculated, multi-step felony. "It gets significantly worse," Marcus continued, his tone clinical as he flipped to the next page of the dossier. "I traced the final payout of the loan. Yes, a substantial chunk went to an upscale contracting firm to finance Savannah's kitchen remodel. But that was only 40% of the total disbursement. The other 60% went directly to 3 separate major credit card companies." I stared at the highlighted statements laid out before me. The numbers were staggering. Savannah's glamorous online life was a hollow house of cards, built entirely on maxed-out plastic, carrying a 29% interest rate. The designer bags, the first-class flights to Dubai, the 5-star hotel stays she flaunted to her followers. None of it was paid for by brand deals or social media revenue. She was drowning in crippling debt. Beatrice had committed a federal financial crime simply to bail out her golden child's suffocating vanity. "I want to call the police," I stated, my hands gripping the edge of the mahogany desk until my knuckles turned completely white. "I want to press charges. I want her in handcuffs by noon today." Marcus folded his hands together, staring at me with a grim, uncompromising expression. "You can. It is textbook wire fraud and identity theft. But let me paint you a very clear picture of what happens if you dial emergency services right now. The police take the initial report. Financial crimes detectives drag their feet for 6 to 8 months just building a preliminary case. Beatrice hires a sleazy, high-priced defense attorney who ties the case up in discovery hearings and motions for another 2 years. In the meantime, the trust money is frozen, scattered, or completely drained by legal fees." He paused, letting the bitter, acidic truth sink into my skin. "If we go to the authorities today, Chloe misses her enrollment deadline next week. She loses her guaranteed spot at the Design Academy. Your mother might eventually see the inside of a federal holding cell 3 years from now, but your daughter's dream will be completely dead." I closed my eyes. The image of Chloe crying in the passenger seat flashed violently behind my eyelids. I could not let them win. I could not let them take the one thing I had worked my entire adult life to build. "Then what is the alternative?" "Marcus," I asked, opening my eyes. The panic was gone. The shock was gone. Only a chilling, absolute clarity remained. Marcus picked up a heavy gold pen and tapped it against the loan contract. "Beatrice went to a subprime shadow lender because no legitimate, federally backed bank would accept an 18-year-old guardianship document without calling you to verify the authorization. Subprime lenders are incredibly greedy, but they are also exceptionally sloppy. This specific contract is full of structural loopholes. The default clauses are aggressive, designed to seize the collateral immediately upon a breach of the secondary terms." I stared at the forged signatures on the paper. The trap Beatrice had built for herself was precarious. It was held together by pure arrogance and a desperate, frantic need for quick cash. "Do not report the fraud," I said, the strategy forming in my mind like cold steel pieces of a loaded weapon snapping into place. "Let her keep the money for now. Let Savannah build her shiny new kitchen." Marcus raised an eyebrow, genuinely intrigued. "And what exactly is your play?" "I do not want to destroy them in a courtroom 3 years from now," I replied, my voice dropping to a dangerous, steady whisper. "I want to own the board they are playing on. I want you to find a way to buy this specific debt. Use a shell company. Use whatever anonymous dummy corporation you have in your legal arsenal. I want to become my mother's primary creditor." Marcus smiled slowly. It was the terrifying smile of a shark smelling fresh blood in the water. "If we do that, and they breach any minor covenant in this agreement, we bypass the police and the criminal courts entirely. We execute a civil asset seizure. We take everything they leverage to get this loan." "Exactly," I said, standing up from the heavy leather chair, feeling taller than I had in years. "They stole my daughter's future to build a fake life on the internet. I am going to buy the wind that blows their entire house down." I had to play the victim. It was the only way to make the predator go to sleep. 2 days after my meeting with Marcus, I drove back to the sprawling suburban estate. I made sure my hair looked a little unkempt, my eyes red and exhausted. I sat at Beatrice's glass dining table and wept. I told her I was terrified, that I had no other options, and that I just wanted to salvage whatever was left of our relationship. Beatrice, reveling in her absolute power, slid a flimsy piece of printer paper across the glass. It was a laughable, handwritten document titled as an internal family loan agreement, stating Savannah would pay back the funds over the next 10 years with 0 interest. I signed it with a trembling hand. The moment the ink dried on that worthless piece of paper, a visible wave of relief washed over my mother. She thought she had legally sanitized her crime. She thought I had surrendered. With the supposed threat of my retaliation neutralized, Savannah's arrogance mutated into something entirely unhinged. Her social media channels transformed into a sickening digital shrine dedicated to her kitchen remodel. She posted daily vlogs detailing the installation of a massive custom island, boasting to her followers that the slab of imported Italian marble alone cost over $40,000. Every evening, my feed was choked with her insufferable updates. She flaunted high-end smart refrigerators, bespoke cabinetry, and an industrial-grade stove that belonged in a Michelin-starred restaurant, not the house of a woman who primarily ate takeout. Her videos documenting the transformation of the space quickly went viral, racking up over 3 million views in just 5 days. Her comment sections were flooded with naive fans praising her success and her flawless aesthetic. Watching her preen and pose amidst hundreds of thousands of dollars of stolen future was nauseating. But it was also a vital part of the trap. She was documenting the exact value of the asset I was about to seize. While Savannah danced for the internet, my own home was cloaked in a heavy, suffocating gloom. Chloe had fallen into a deep, quiet depression. She stopped sketching. She stopped talking about New York. The harsh reality of familial betrayal had completely shattered her innocent worldview. She spent her days curled up on the sofa, staring blankly at the television. I could not let her spirit break entirely. One rainy Tuesday evening, I sat on the edge of her bed and took her hands in mine. I did not give her the full, dangerous picture, but I told her to pack her bags for the Design Academy. "I do not understand," Chloe whispered, her voice barely audible. "The money is gone. Aunt Savannah is spending it right now." I looked her dead in the eye and delivered the most important lesson she would ever learn about surviving in the adult world. "Savannah is not spending our money, sweetheart. She is building our leverage. I need you to trust me. Keep packing. Keep preparing. Sometimes, the most powerful thing you can do is stand perfectly still and let your enemies dig their own graves." She did not fully comprehend it, but a tiny spark of life finally returned to her eyes. Meanwhile, I was quietly liquidating every single asset I had to my name. I emptied my personal emergency savings. I cashed out my corporate stock options at AeroVantage Solutions and leveraged every favor I was owed by the senior finance directors I worked with. I gathered every available dollar and wired the entire sum to a sterile, anonymous holding corporation registered in Delaware, entirely managed by Marcus Thorne. Within 48 hours, that shell company reached out to the shadowy subprime lender Beatrice had used. We purchased the bad debt at a slight premium, acquiring all the legal rights, the collateral claims, and the default triggers attached to the original loan. My mother and sister still thought they owed money to a faceless, predatory institution. They had absolutely no idea that their creditor was now sitting in a townhouse just 30 miles away, oblivious to the financial guillotine suspended directly above her head. Beatrice began a victory lap through her affluent social circles. She hosted a series of exclusive garden parties, pouring expensive wine for her wealthy friends while loudly bragging about her immense maternal sacrifices. Through mutual acquaintances, I heard the sickening tales she spun. She painted herself as a fierce, devoted matriarch who had generously dipped into her own retirement funds to sponsor Savannah's blossoming entrepreneurial career. She harvested sympathy and admiration, entirely rewriting history to make herself the hero of a story built on fraud and theft. I let her talk. I let her drink. I let Savannah post her endless streams of vanity every night. Sitting alone at my kitchen table, I compiled a meticulous digital dossier. I saved every single one of Savannah's videos, archiving the visual proof of the property upgrades. I collected screenshots of her deleted tweets, bragging about luxury shopping sprees. I gathered the digital receipts of the expensive designer handbags she carelessly flashed in the backgrounds of her videos, proving she was violating the strict secondary spending covenants of the loan agreement. They were living in a perfect, flawless bubble of their own creation. The kitchen was nearly finished. The trap was fully set. All I had to do was wait for the right moment to strike the match. The grand finale of Savannah's digital charade finally arrived. The kitchen was officially complete, and it was a nauseating monument to excessive vanity. The contractors had packed up their heavy tools, leaving behind a pristine magazine-ready set piece. It was no longer just a room where meals were prepared. It was a state-of-the-art production studio masquerading as a suburban home. The property value of Savannah's house skyrocketed the moment the final piece of imported brass hardware was installed, artificially inflating her equity by hundreds of thousands of dollars. She had built a fortress of absolute luxury on a foundation of stolen money, and it was breathtakingly fragile. Meanwhile, the silence in my own townhouse was deafening. The clock was ticking with a brutal, relentless rhythm. Chloe's heavy cardstock admission letter sat on the dining table, the bold red print of the tuition deadline screaming at me. We had exactly 7 days left, 168 hours until her spot at the academy would be officially revoked and given to a waitlisted student. The pressure in my chest was a physical weight, crushing my lungs every time I looked at my daughter's anxious face. She had packed her 2 large suitcases just like I asked, trusting blindly in a plan she did not completely understand. I could not fail her. The margin for error was exactly 0. The heavy thud of a courier package hitting my front porch shattered the afternoon tension. It was a thick, sealed security envelope sent directly from the office of Marcus Thorne. Inside was the loaded weapon we had spent weeks meticulously assembling the finalized legal dossier. Beatrice had signed a predatory subprime contract with a strict secondary spending covenant she never bothered to read. By funneling the loan funds to pay off Savannah's revolving high-interest credit card debt and funding her continued luxury shopping sprees, they had triggered a hard, irreversible default clause. My anonymous holding company, acting as the sole legal creditor, now held the immediate, uncontested right to foreclose on the entire collateralized asset. Marcus had aggressively fast-tracked the civil asset seizure paperwork through a private judge. The house, the land, and every single piece of that shiny new kitchen legally belonged to me. As I read through the final page of the foreclosure authorization, my smartphone chimed with a high-pitched notification. It was a mass email containing a digital invitation decorated with ornate, animated gold foil graphics. Savannah was hosting a formal gala that very evening, She arrogantly dubbed it the Million-View Kitchen Unveiling. The invitation proudly announced that the entire extravagant party would be live-streamed across all of her major social media platforms, complete with a professional camera crew, catered vintage champagne, and a guest list packed with local internet influencers and wealthy socialites. The sheer blinding audacity of it all was almost poetic. She was throwing a lavish party to celebrate the very asset I was about to rip out from under her. I walked into my master bedroom and opened the closet. This was not the time for my standard corporate office attire or a polite, blending cocktail dress. I was walking into a highly publicized digital execution, and I needed to dress for the occasion. I pulled out a tailored, obsidian black designer pantsuit that fit like a second skin. I applied my makeup with cold, sharp precision, heavily contouring my cheekbones to cast harsh shadows and painting my lips a deep, unforgiving shade of dark crimson. Staring into the full-length mirror, the tired, desperate, weeping mother from the previous weeks was completely gone. The woman looking back at me was a polished ice queen, forged in betrayal and armed with absolute, unshakable legal authority. I was a commanding general stepping onto a modern battlefield, wearing a silk-lined suit instead of iron armor. I walked back into the living room where Chloe was sitting on the sofa, her hands anxiously twisting the delicate fabric of her skirt. I reached out and took her hands in mine, gripping them with a fierce, grounding strength. "Are we really going there tonight, Mom?" Chloe asked, her voice wavering between deep fear and electric anticipation. "We are not just going to attend, sweetheart," I replied, my voice echoing with a chilling, metallic resolve as I looked straight into her eyes. "We are taking the center stage. I promised you I would fix this nightmare, and I always keep my promises. Tonight, we do not just take back the exact amount of money they stole from your future. We are going to collect the principal, and we are going to collect every single ounce of the interest." The street leading to Savannah's property was completely choked with luxury vehicles. Valet drivers in crisp white shirts were sprinting up and down the driveway, parking sleek sports cars and massive luxury SUVs. The thumping bass of a hired DJ echoed through the manicured front lawn. Bright, blinding camera flashes pulsed from the open front doors, cutting through the cool evening air like lightning. It was a circus of modern vanity, and my sister was the ringmaster. I held Chloe's hand tight, feeling the slight tremble in her fingers, and led her right up the cobblestone path. We bypassed the velvet rope and stepped straight into the lion's den. The interior of the house was packed shoulder to shoulder with local social media influencers, boutique owners, and minor celebrities, all reeking of expensive floral perfumes and holding tiny plates of catered caviar. In the center of it all, standing proudly in the newly minted sprawling kitchen, was Savannah. She was wearing a glittering gold cocktail dress that caught the harsh glare of the professional ring light set up by her camera crew. A massive, 72-inch smart television screen was mounted on the back wall, directly mirroring her live broadcast so she could watch her own face and the rapidly scrolling live chat while she performed. Before we could even make it 10 feet into the foyer, my mother intercepted us. Beatrice materialized from the crowd like a phantom, holding a crystal flute of sparkling wine. Her heavily Botoxed face stretched into a panicked, furious scowl the moment she recognized us. She grabbed my arm, her manicured nails digging into the black silk of my suit, and tried to drag me toward the hallway away from the cameras. "What on earth are you doing here, Nevers?" Beatrice hissed under her breath, her eyes darting nervously toward the camera crew. "I sent you that invitation as a mere formality. You were not actually supposed to show up. Look at you. You are wearing a funeral suit to a celebration. You are going to completely ruin the aesthetic of the family portrait. Turn around and take Chloe out through the garage before anybody sees you." I looked down at her hand gripping my arm. I did not pull away. I simply stared at her with such absolute, freezing contempt that she instinctively let go. Taking a half step backward, "I am exactly where I need to be. Mother," I said, my voice barely above a whisper but sharp enough to cut bone. "And I highly suggest you go find a comfortable seat. You are going to want to sit down for this. I pushed past her, guiding Chloe through the sea of confused guests. We reached the edge of the kitchen just as the DJ lowered the music. The crowd hushed. Savannah stepped up onto a small acrylic podium set up next to the massive marble island. She picked up a microphone and a heavy dark green bottle of vintage champagne. "Thank you all so much for coming out tonight," Savannah shouted into the mic, flashing her pearly white veneers at the primary camera lens. "And a massive thank you to the 45,000 viewers tuning in live right now. Building this brand has been an absolute journey. People see the glamour, but they do not see the late nights, the endless grinding, the blood, the sweat, and the tears it takes to create an empire. This kitchen is not just a room. It is a testament to what happens when you never give up on your dreams." The crowd erupted into shallow, polite applause. Savannah raised the champagne bottle, positioning her thumbs under the gold wire cage of the cork, ready for the perfect, photogenic pop. It was time. I did not hesitate. I stepped out from the crowd, my black suit a stark contrast to the pastel cocktail dresses surrounding me. I walked straight up to the acrylic podium. The guests parted instinctively, sensing the sudden, violent shift in the atmosphere. Before Savannah could even register what was happening, I reached out with a bright, radiant smile and gently but firmly ripped the microphone right out of her hand. "What are you doing?" Savannah gasped, her eyes widening in pure shock, the champagne bottle freezing in her grip. I ignored her completely. I turned to face the crowd, holding the microphone to my lips, and then looked directly down the barrel of the main broadcast camera. "Good evening, everyone," I projected, my voice booming through the high-end speakers set up around the room. Savannah is absolutely right. This beautiful kitchen is a testament to exactly what kind of person she is. However, she forgot to thank her most significant investor tonight. She forgot to thank her 18-year-old niece, Chloe, whose entire college tuition fund was secretly liquidated to pay for these magnificent Italian marble countertops. A collective, audible gasp ripped through the room. Savannah's jaw dropped. Beatrice let out a strangled shriek from the back of the crowd. "Neve, shut your mouth this instant," Beatrice screamed, aggressively shoving her way through the guests. I did not stop. I pulled my smartphone from my blazer pocket, tapped the screen twice, and wirelessly cast my display directly to the 72-inch smart television mounted on the wall behind Savannah. The bright, smiling face of Savannah's broadcast vanished. In its place, projected in massive, undeniable high definition, was the fraudulent shadow loan contract. "Let us talk about the blood, sweat, and tears of building an empire," I continued, my voice echoing with unrelenting authority as I swiped to the next slide. "What you are looking at is a predatory loan agreement. See that signature at the bottom? That is a forged digital signature of my name, executed by my mother, Beatrice, using an expired medical guardianship document. She illegally used my daughter's educational trust as collateral to secure a massive sum of dirty money." I swiped the screen again. The loan disbursement receipts appeared, highlighting the exact amounts. "And where did that money go?" I asked the dead silent room. "Only 40% of it went to this gorgeous kitchen. The other 60% went directly to pay off Savannah's towering, delinquent credit card debts, those designer bags, those luxury vacations, this entire boss lady persona you all worship on the internet. It was all funded by stealing the future of an 18-year-old girl who just wanted to go to design school." The silence in the physical room was absolute, deafening horror. But the digital world was exploding. The livestream chat, which was still visible on the side of the television screen, turned into a blurring waterfall of text. I could see the comments flying by at light speed. "Thief. Oh my God, she stole from a kid. Cancel Savannah right now. Call the police." The facade shattered completely. Savannah dropped the vintage champagne. The heavy glass bottle hit the imported tile floor, exploding into 100 glittering pieces, sending expensive alcohol foaming across the pristine floorboards. Savannah covered her face with her hands. letting out a raw, ugly sob as she realized her entire digital empire was burning to ashes in front of 45,000 live witnesses. Beatrice finally broke through the front of the crowd, her face completely purple with unhinged rage. She lunged toward the camera crew, wildly waving her arms. "Turn it off!" Beatrice shrieked, her voice cracking as she slapped at the expensive camera lenses. "Cut the feed. Turn it all off right now, Nevaeh. You psychotic, jealous wretch. You have ruined us. You are destroying this family's honor over a stupid misunderstanding." "There is no honor left to destroy, Mother," I replied into the microphone, my voice completely devoid of mercy, staring down at the pathetic, frantic women in front of me. "And there is no misunderstanding. I did not come here just to embarrass you. I came here to collect my property." I swiped my phone screen one final time. The massive television displayed the official, fast-tracked foreclosure notice, legally bound and stamped by the county judge, listing my holding corporation as the sole owner of the debt, the land, and the house. "I bought your bad debt, Mother," I declared, delivering the final, fatal blow. "I own this contract now. You breached the secondary spending clauses by buying designer shoes with the remaining loan money. Therefore, as of this afternoon, my company has legally seized this collateral. Enjoy the party, Savannah, because this house and this million-view kitchen now belongs to me." The silence in the room was shattered by the heavy, rhythmic thud of combat boots marching up the cobblestone driveway. Before my mother could formulate another screeching insult, the grand front doors swung wide open. Marcus Thorne walked in, looking like the Grim Reaper in a perfectly tailored suit. Flanking him were the local county sheriff and two uniformed bailiffs, their metallic badges catching the harsh glare of the camera lights. The remaining guests, realizing they were suddenly standing in the middle of a massive legal and criminal implosion, began sprinting for the exits. The camera crew hastily started packing their expensive gear. "Savannah," the sheriff announced, his voice carrying a booming, uncompromising authority that cut straight through the chaos. "We are executing an emergency writ of possession. This property has been legally seized by the creditor holding your defaulted secondary loan. You and all unauthorized individuals are legally required to vacate the premises immediately." Savannah let out a guttural, agonizing wail. She dropped to her knees right in the middle of the spilled vintage champagne and shattered green glass. Completely ignoring the ruined fabric of her sparkling gold designer gown, she crawled toward me, tears streaming down her face, ruining her perfect, camera-ready makeup. "Nevaeh, please," Savannah begged, her voice cracking with raw panic. "You cannot do this. This is my home. Where am I supposed to go? Please, I will do anything. Just do not throw me out into the street tonight." I looked down at her. I did not feel a single ounce of pity. "You should have thought about where Chloe was going to go when you stole her college tuition to buy custom brass faucets," I replied coldly. "You have exactly 2 hours to pack whatever clothes you can fit into your car. Anything left behind becomes the legal property of my estate." Beatrice lunged forward, her face twisted in absolute desperation. "You monster, you are destroying your own blood. I am your mother." Marcus stepped smoothly between us, pulling a thick, sealed yellow envelope from his leather briefcase and pressing it firmly against Beatrice's chest. "Consider yourself served. Beatrice, that is a federal subpoena. The civil asset seizure covers the financial debt, but it certainly does not erase the criminal act of forging a signature on a binding legal document to secure a loan under false pretenses. The authorities will be in touch shortly regarding the wire fraud and identity theft charges." Beatrice stared at the heavy envelope as if it were a venomous snake. The last remaining fragments of her arrogant facade crumbled into dust. She realized, in that exact second, that she was entirely ruined. She was facing serious federal prison time, and her golden child was suddenly, completely homeless. I turned my back on them, grabbing Chloe's hand. "You are not my family," I said over my shoulder, my voice echoing cleanly in the emptying room. "You are just the people I used to know." The aftermath was swift and beautifully merciless. Savannah's digital empire collapsed overnight. Her primary sponsors dropped her within 24 hours, and her comment sections were bombarded with so much public outrage that she was forced to delete her entire online presence. I did not stay to watch them carry their boxes out. I handed the security codes to the bailiffs and walked away. Exactly 1 week later, Marcus listed the seized property for a rapid foreclosure auction. Ironically, Savannah's viral, narcissistic videos had acted as the absolute perfect marketing campaign. A wealthy tech executive, obsessed with the state-of-the-art million-view kitchen, entered a ferocious bidding war. The house sold for nearly double its original market value in less than 48 hours. Once the initial principal of the loan was cleared, the massive remaining surplus of equity legally belonged to my holding company. I transferred every single cent of that surplus directly into Chloe's newly secured educational trust. Not only did we recover the stolen tuition, but my daughter now had a financial safety net large enough to fully fund her living expenses for the next 4 years and provide a massive seed fund to start her own design firm the day she graduated. The morning air in Manhattan was crisp and electric. The towering skyscrapers cast magnificent shadows over the bustling city streets. I stood on the sidewalk with a hot cup of coffee in my hand, listening to the symphony of blaring yellow taxis and rushing pedestrians. Right in front of me were the towering wrought iron gates of the Design Academy. Chloe stood there, her heavy backpack slung over her shoulder, holding her brand new student identification card. She looked back at me, her eyes shining with a pure, unshakable joy that absolutely no one would ever be able to steal again. "Thank you, Mom," Chloe smiled, wrapping her arms around me in a tight, grounding embrace. "Go show the world what you can do," I whispered back. I watched my beautiful daughter turn and walk boldly onto the campus, stepping firmly into the bright, brilliant future she earned. I left the darkness far behind in Seattle, permanently buried beneath the wreckage of their own insatiable greed. Thank you all so much for listening to today's story. We would absolutely love to know where you are tuning in from. So please let us know your beautiful city or country down in the comments section. As a quick reminder, if you found today's story entertaining and want to continue supporting the channel, remember that YouTube has completely demonetized our videos, meaning we are forced to stop uploading new content on this platform for the foreseeable future. We are moving all of our operations over to our Patreon community. Please help us keep bringing you the best, most dramatic, and highly detailed exclusive true stories by joining our Patreon right now. You can easily join by scanning the QR code currently on your screen, or by clicking the link provided in the description box and the pinned comment below. We cannot wait to see you there for our next incredible journey.